How big of an impact did Galactic Starcruiser have? Let's discuss. Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after, from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
The day's finally happened. Starcruiser. Oh my God, am I going to start crying right off the bat? No, I'm absolutely not. Starcruiser is officially closed.
Yeah.
And I know I'm still struggling to put into words what that means to me. And so we've enlisted help.
Yeah, a lot of help.
a lot of help. And we'll get into exactly how much help we've enlisted. But what we wanted to talk about was what impacts has Galactic Starcruiser had on people? And it's impacted a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so we thought one of the ways to do that was to bring on some guests that have had a big impact on this community and are actively trying to keep it going after Starcruiser is closed. So we have two hosts from Heroes of the Halcyon, Martin and Kristine, with us. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Tabuite.
Welcome, you guys. So we know Drew's missing. He couldn't make the recording time. So Drew, you are missed. But yes, we invited you guys on because you hosted the muster meetup right after, like, it was officially the last day of Starcruiser.
Well, I think the thing is like from the beginning of Starcruiser, we started finding our pockets of friends that were very positive aspects of this community. And we found Martin and Kristine through that.
Yep.
And like, because again, before Starcruiser, we had no, forgive me, but we didn't know who you were. But we became family after that.
Yeah, quickly too.
And I think that's the thing is like, and we had a positive outlook on what Starcruiser was and continue to just, reinforce that. So I think that's why it was just like a great, time to like, hey, we need to have Martin and Kristine. We need to have Drew on. We need to have everybody on.
We need our family around us at this time.
Yes, right now, like just in case, we got to have like family here.
Yes. I do have my emotional support toilet paper just off camera too, in case this is what crushes me, because I haven't cried since leaving the ship. I cried one time at the muster meetup, of course, in public, but I haven't cried since. And I'm afraid this might be the time.
I'm a little jealous. I'm a little jealous.
I can be very droid-like when I need to be. So what we did is we put a call out there to the Starcruiser community, specifically in one of our Facebook groups, which we have sadly had to rename the Halcyon Legacy, which is an archive of all things Galactic Starcruiser now. But we put the call out there and said, what impacts has the Halcyon had on you? Was it, and we put some questions out there, like maybe you've started making things that you hadn't made before. Maybe you made new friends, all kinds of things. And we ended up seeing a pattern. But here's the other thing. I asked people 2 to 3 sentences, just wrap it up in a nice little bow for me so I can like gather these really easily. You can't put that into 2 or 3 sentences. I don't know what I was thinking when I asked that. We got like paragraphs and paragraphs. So,
which was what Starcruiser, you can't just describe it as a Star Wars hotel.
No.
It was so much more than that.
Yeah.
And, again, people couldn't just give you a 2-sentence, like, this is what it did. It's like, no, it did all of this.
That's how big the impact was. You cannot summarize it into 2 to 3 sentences. Fair enough. It was rude of me to ask that in the first place. But we ended up getting over 100 responses. And I was reading them to prepare for this. And I spent hours reading all of them and organizing all of it. And I'm just like, it's absolutely amazing. We know here at Princess and Scoundrel, Heroes of the Halcyon, like I'm sure it has had a profound impact on your lives. But to see that it had so much impact on everybody that experienced it, amazing. Like, ugh. So what we've done is I tried to bucket the responses into 4 different ones. And so we'll talk about the play aspect an impact that it had, creating, confidence building, and then lastly, the community, because I think that's kind of the key here is the community that it's built. So should we dig in?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to start reading some quotes from people from the Facebook groups, and then we can just go around and talk about it. So starting out, Troy L. says, the greatest impact Starcruiser had on me was making me feel seen. As a lifelong Star Wars and role-playing game fan, it felt like Disney built something for me. I'll never forget being able to literally live a dream of mine. It sums it up. It sums it up so well.
Yeah.
And how many times have you heard something similar to that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it, is that so many people had this desire to be able to express their passion for Star Wars in some fashion, and there just wasn't necessarily that perfect outlet. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, you can LARP, you can, join different groups, you can do, I mean, there's lots of things you can do, but to have it actually just be like, no, this playground you will never be able to experience unless you're here. That's it. Amazing. Just amazing.
To compliment Disney and the Imagineers is like, that is what a lot of what they do is to bring that childlike nature to adults that have forgotten, and being able to go to do that, because again, a lot of us that are in this realm, we grew up watching Star Wars, and we've always had that dream of like holding a lightsaber and being the hero, and just these different moments. Like as a child growing up, you always dreamt of it, but being able to do it in real life, again, there's just no describing it. And I think that's the part of it that it, regardless of, you forget how much it costs when you're throwing the ship in the hyperdrive.
Yeah.
You forget anything else, like the worries of the, work when you're, sitting in the sublight with stormtroopers coming in and, questioning people. Like those real world things get forgotten
Just for
a little
time.
bit, and you get to enjoy yourself for a little bit.
So listen to this one. Andrew Vogel, it touches on that exactly. Andrew Vogel says, my wife, who's dealing with a significant medical issue, loved going to the Starcruiser because there, good and evil were out right in the open and could be fought and defeated. She said that when she's on board, she doesn't feel like she's sick. Ooh, it's going to get me. This is the greatest accomplishment of the project, to make us forget our earthbound woes and allow us to unabashedly live in the experience. And then C. Rat. I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher everybody's name. I apologize in advance. 50-year-old me was able to remember what it was like to be 12-year-old me, all while experiencing it with my own 12-year-old son. The circle was complete. I used to be the learner, and now I had become the master.
Wow.
Wow.
Right? I know. I cannot believe I was not an absolute puddle on the floor reading these things.
It's early.
My eyes have
It's
gotten
early, Sarah.
misty. My eyes, they've been misty all day, but the tears haven't fallen yet. Yeah, you truly could just go play. And that was what was wonderful about it. One of the last ones, Rachel Ashbrook, and she says, humorous answer, I learned leatherworking. Heartfelt answer, I found my people. Final answer, I found myself again and remembered how to play. And I think I found myself again, I think is such a powerful statement, because to me, that means like, when you're growing up and you're a kid, you get to be your true self, and you don't have the pressures of the world to like mold what you think you should be to be accepted by the world. And so to go into Starcruiser,
Well, you don't have the world telling you no.
and
I think that's when you're growing up, you're told no, and that's what becomes what you restrict yourself to, and it's hard to get outside of those bounds of I can do this, I can do that, and to learn how to do that again could be very difficult.
But Starcruiser made it easy. That was the beauty of it. They made it so easy to just show up and play and forget.
And cheer for other people while they did it.
Yes, that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, you didn't have to be the main character. You could just be sitting there with your drink in
Well,
the atrium.
and
Just be
that
like,
was
yeah, go get it.
like, on our last voyage, our last voyages, I don't feel I got into necessarily a lot of story points. I felt like I was, during that time, just kind of saying my goodbyes. And especially, again, this last voyage, I was just telling Cass, thank you. And like every one of them, I would stop and just tell them thank you. And it was kind of funny because throughout my voyages, I'd never really sided with Lieutenant Croy. At one point during the trip, he's running around, kind of ordering people around, and it was pretty quiet in the atrium. And I kind of, hey, Lieutenant Croy, I have something to say. He's like, yes, he's going on. And I was like, I know throughout my voyages, I have not been able to talk with you because you're, keeping us safe, or, whatnot. But I want to say thank you. And like, I had a moment of saying thank you with him. And he was moving, but then he stops. And he looks at me and he says, thank you. And it was just a moment of just appreciation. And I think for him, it was thanking us, loving that ship, loving those performances. For me, it was for them creating this environment, creating this story, creating this, this story for us to love. But that's all I said was thank you. And all he said was thank you. But there was just so much more in that thank you that didn't need to be said, but it was there.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I wish I could be as succinct with my words and messages as you are. I'm just like blubbering over everybody, and you're just over here with like a little nod of your head getting it done.
Yes, for me also it was a place that I was able to play and let loose and forget about the outside world type of thing.
So yeah, that's true. So I know you guys have been fans of Star Wars longer than me for sure, because I'm a fairly new Star Wars fan. So what was it like to play in Starcruiser for you?
Again, I mean, I'm old enough to have been there when Star Wars started, and what's the thing that I take away from Starcruiser, it fundamentally has changed my relationship with Star Wars. Fundamentally, I mean, Star Wars has always been an absolute core building block of who I am since I was 5.5 core, and this has fundamentally deepened my relationship with Star Wars, how I feel about it, how I want to talk about it with other people. And for a theme park experience, that's pretty amazing, that they're able to just deepen something that you've had for 50 years. But to play in it, I mean, to be able to look into the performer's eyes when they're talking about what they need, what's happening, the ship's in danger. Watching the movies is fantastic. We love watching these films, but to be able to stand there with Lenka, the captain, Sammy, as they're relaying this, and to make that connection with the performer, that a film can never match that ever.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, you're living in it. Like, it's not 2D anymore. It's a 3D story happening around you, and it's, oh boy. Okay, let's move on before I do start crying. Oh my, I got a little misty there. Okay, so let's talk about creating. So I have a couple of quotes. A ton of people either started new businesses or they started learning how to costume from doing this. They learned how to 3D print or how to sew or how to leather work or any of these things that you could use for Starcruiser or could help other people for Starcruiser. Tons of that. But there were a couple that really stood out to me. For the costuming, Christina Fields-Zinna says, the biggest impact for me was learning that I enjoyed cosplay. Although I'd been to conventions like Dragon Con, I never dressed up and I never immersed myself. But on the Halcyon, I was captivated and taken to a new world, not just by the cast and crew, but the passengers as well. It was inspiring and magical, not to just be an audience member, but a part of the story, which is exactly what you're saying. You're not an audience member anymore. And I feel that sentiment is shared by so many, because you guys are like the king and queen of going to cons. You've been to Comic-Con how many times?
19.
19. Yeah.
And we had
But of
gone
those 19, how many of them did you cosplay?
The last one.
since
We
Star
never
Cruiser.
cosplayed.
Yep.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I cosplayed one time in my life before Star Cruiser, and that was for the opening of the Indiana Jones Adventure back in 95, and that was the only time in my entire life.
But I think the thing is it was, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, I think the aspect of it was feeling comfortable enough. You know, I've always loved like seeing, you know, at the cons, like seeing these beautiful costumes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how much detail they put into it, how much work like you want that. But there's just like this,
You're like, I could never.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk in public. And I remember the first time going on the ship, how like self-conscious and how like out of my element I felt being dressed up, going to, and I wasn't even dressed up to what I was, you know, this last one, but just how like anxious I felt, you know, going into the lobby, waiting for our taxi because
like at our hotel.
the first time, because it, you know, nobody had done it. And so it was just like, there was so much anxiety just like to get myself to that point. And, you know, again, up to this last one, I was just wearing full armor, and I'm like, I'm just trying to stay cool. Like, I didn't care like who was looking at me, who's taking pictures. I was just like, I just need to stay cool because this armor's hot.
Yeah, I mean, but it's done that for so many people. Like I made Betty Bantha because of Star Cruiser, because I was like, oh, cosplaying's fun. I could dress up for a con, but for me, it's like I don't necessarily want to dress up as. And maybe this is how Star Cruiser spoiled me specifically. I don't want to dress up as another character. I want to dress up as my own character, because I was my own character on Star Cruiser, and that was really cool.
Right.
And so now I have all these weird Betty Bantha, Mom Mashma, Corellian Spice Girl, like all these different things that I've created, or characters I've created. But I think it's because Star Cruiser let me be me on the ship. I wasn't slotted in as, you know, like when you play a board game or something and you pick a character card. I didn't have to play that character. I got to play as me. That was really cool. It was really, really cool.
And that's what I think would be really hard is that I know for, speaking just for me, for somebody who has never cosplayed before, my thought has always been, well, I can't dress up as Wonder Woman because I don't look like Wonder Woman. I can't dress up as, you know, this character, that character, because I don't look like those people. Well, Maleficent is me. So nobody else knows how she looks or dresses or anything else. And it's just one more aspect of what we're doing that allows you that freedom and that comfort to be like, you know, you don't have that extra barrier of thinking, ooh, somebody's going to look at me and look at my costume and be like, nah, you're not cutting it. I don't buy that. If it's you or a character that you've created, there's no judgment in that. There's no way for somebody to tell you you're wrong. And that's what is the biggest aspect, at least to me, of what prevents people in general from taking that next step is the judgment piece of it. And Star Cruiser allowed all of us to play and to costume and all that without the extra judgment or concern that there would be judgment.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think you nailed it. That's absolutely beautiful. Ugh.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's like, you know, well said. Because I think that's what it was. It's like we didn't have to be a particular character. You know, we were our characters, and because we were our own characters, we were able to be, you know, confident behind it.
You could put yourself into that.
Yeah.
Any of the characters that we played on the ship were just us amplified. Mm-hmm. And I think that just gave them more.
Or we were able
to
be
confidence in a bit.
Yeah.
But it was just us, but more.
Yeah.
And now we've become that, but more. But one thing I do want to call out before we move on to confidence, because I feel like this one's not something you would think would happen because of Starcruiser, but just it's so beautiful. So Liz Sipe says, it gave me the confidence to share TikToks of my service dog / Lothwolf, Navi, on our voyages. By making those videos, I was able to help other service dog handlers and educate the public on service dogs.
Wow.
Like the
Yeah.
fact that a Star Wars hotel is helping to educate the public on accessibility is wonderful. Like
Incredible.
And I'm sure there were more like that. I didn't see specifically anything like that, anything else to call out like that, but I'm sure there are other impacts like that that just we're not aware of, but were happening because of Starcruiser. But let's segue in, just like Liz, it gave her the confidence to share those TikToks, and I think it gave people a lot of confidence to start sharing on social media, is just the confidence that it gave people in general. So that's our third topic, is confidence. And I'll kick us off with the first one. Mel Fournier. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mel. I hope I said your last name right. To me, the Galactic Starcruiser showed me that imagination and creativity can truly open your world, that everyone has a story to tell, and that all of our stories are special and unique, and if given the chance, can intertwine and develop to something even more special. Friendships, new people to call family. Which is 100% true, because that's why we are sitting here talking to you guys today. Like we, had it not been for the Starcruiser experience, we wouldn't have any of the friends that we have right now that we talk to on a daily basis. They're all because of Starcruiser, and none of us live in the same town or even the same state.
I think this came, and we've, shouted it from the rooftops every single time, is the small thread that connected us all in all these different worlds that we all lived in was Star Wars. And with Starcruiser, it was able to concentrate those Star Wars fans that were, again, wanted this positive experience. We wanted to experience, we wanted to play again. It brought all of us together, and we didn't talk about the real world. Yeah. We talked about our experiences on that ship, and that's how we became, friends. And as far as the confidence, like, again, that's where I felt it was a safe space, and I'm speaking again from my experiences. It's a safe place that I felt that I was able to open up. And either it be a mask, like literal mask, or a figurative mask of being these characters, I was able to let go and be more comfortable in my own skin. And I think that may have been the same sentiment I feel other people felt, is they were able to feel comfortable when they're in their own skin, because it felt like a safe place for them.
Absolutely. I mean, I felt like I figured out who I was the first time I stepped foot on that ship. I had started the whole journey of being a travel agent, and I started talking about Starcruiser. We started this podcast, but in my mind, I still felt like we were kind of just like, we're just going to fake it till we make it, until we feel like we're confident enough and we are enough, and we deserve to do these things. And then being on that ship and taking part in that story and getting to, help the resistance, but even just getting to meet other people from other walks of life and hearing their perspectives, it gave me the confidence to say, oh, well, let me figure out who I am and what it is that I want. And it's changed me. And like, I know who I am now. If you told me before Starcruiser opened, like, hey, define who you are, I couldn't. I'd be like, I don't know, I'm just some mom from the suburbs, whatever. But now it's like, no, I love Star Wars. We love talking about the Disney parks and visiting the Disney parks and seeing our friends and throwing very strange emo punk parties that have people come dress in cosplay. and marketing and communication. Like I can rattle off, I can talk about myself now easily, whereas I couldn't really define myself before. And it's because of this experience. How about you guys? What changes have you seen in yourself from Starcruiser?
I'll go first on this one. I mean, I created this character, George Sakul, and without even realizing it, I created the person that I wanted to be. And it's the person I allowed myself to become. This is what I look like now. I've become the person I wanted to be because of Starcruiser.
Martin, you're going to get me now. That's so beautiful. Sorry, Kristine.
I changed my business card to my real job to look like this.
Do you want some toilet paper? I'm sorry. Oh, and the Starcruiser fan too. Those were wonderful, by the way, on the last voyage, passing out the fans.
Yeah.
And much needed.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I've never seen Kristine as happy as the moment she realized what Starcruiser was. I was there. I saw it. I saw it happen before my eyes. She was worried. She didn't know what she was getting into, but she jumped for it. And I saw the moment when she was talking with Sandro where she got it. She was like, I can be in this and own it and just be amazing. And I mean, the very first voyage, we didn't know that the Saja were supposed to do the muster station. There was no Saja around. Kristine, I mean, Mali, just grabbed that muster marker and did it when the captain called and owned it and rocked it. And Kristine would have never done that an hour before then. Never in a million years would Kristine have done that. And she has just supernovaed in so many different directions because of this fake space voyage. It's become real for so many people.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, and I think that's like, I love that. I love that this was who you were. It was just, there was that step that we needed to take, that we needed. And I think if this is what it was, this is what it was. But I feel, again, like just from your stories, that there's that confidence there. There's like, if I've taken on other stuff, not being my full self, imagine what I could do at my full potential, like me being myself. Yeah. Like, what can I do? And I think there's just that I could take it. You know, I could do it. Like if I was able to do it covered up, imagine me now, you know, at full strength.
And it's the lack of judgment and the immediate response of support. And you don't get that in your day-to-day life. But when you're on Starcruiser, like we had, touched on before, if somebody else wins, like you grab the Hyananea stone, or you were able to move the rocks with the Saja, or you were able to, any of those kind of things, or somebody said, hey, I made this costume, or hey, I made this gift for people, do you want it? Everybody celebrated it.
Yeah.
And that celebration of each other outside of ourselves was the catalyst for everybody to keep getting better. I mean, that's where you see people like, I know we'll talk about it more, but, being able to open up a store, or being able to post, their costumes online before a voyage or after a voyage, or just any of those kind of things that are like, normally you'd be like, I don't look my best, or my costume's not cool enough, or I made this thing, but it's not that great. This community doesn't allow for that. This community wants to celebrate everything that you've done. And when you make those connections and friendships that continue outside of Starcruiser, the celebration doesn't stop. I mean, we're still all celebrating each other.
Yeah.
So that's, Thank you.
Yeah. You know, you touched on a good
Everybody
point.
who's doing that.
I have, since like being on Starcruiser, I have never been jealous of anybody, not a single person. Would I have loved to have been the family that threw the ship into hyperdrive the first time? Like, we never did that. And like in between voyages, I'm like, oh man, that would be cool. But every single time Lenka would introduce the family that was going to do it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool for you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so happy for them, or whoever, like you said, gets to do the high end and Nea or the Force Rocks or any of that stuff. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, you got to do that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think that part of it too was like hearing about it, hearing it from them after it happened, like that secondhand high you would get because they were like so jacked because
just the light on their face, like they're just radiating.
They were so jacked of just like I just experienced something in the climate simulator, and you start knowing like, oh my gosh, like I think it was the rocks. I think it was the rocks, and then like, so like they don't go straight into it. They tell their story of like the Sasha start telling me a story. It's like heartfelt, and then we start playing with the rocks, and like, and as you could just tell that it was like a moment for them, and you're just like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you were able to experience that because I know how like special that is.
Well, there was somebody in the groups that I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but it was saying that the Saja that did their Force Rocks experience basically performed couples therapy for them through doing that experience. It's just like, it's changed so many lives. Let me raffle off some of the other things because my eyes need to dry up a little bit. But I mean, it's echoing the things that, like Martin, you said. Elizabeth Baker says it gave me the tools to become who I've always wanted to be. Faith Collins says, short answer, it put things in perspective. Always be unapologetically yourself. Lean into what you love. Never be embarrassed or feel weird. Friends, family, connecting via storytelling is the point of life. And I think that's been one of the things. I've got a couple more, but I think that's been one of the things that we've experienced is like we used to be very closed off before putting ourselves out on the internet and having conversations. But even then, even before Starcruiser, it was pretty limited to just like, we would have these conversations but that was really it. And since Starcruiser and since meeting you guys and Thank the Maker and that Dano guy and all of these other wonderful people, like we share so much more about ourselves and maybe like our triumphs or our struggles too.
But I think that's the thing is like when you, again, to kind of, again, not to put it on anybody else, but you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you share, you have to be vulnerable, and some people are not used to that. And you have to feel safe enough to become vulnerable. And the fact that you find people, which I think is like going to segue into the next, but it's just when you find your people, you feel safe enough to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to if there's mistakes or if there's, there's differences, it's okay. And you could, be yourself.
Yeah. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like you can be accepted for who you are. And that's wonderful. Emily Richter says, for me, Starcruiser redefined the concept of possible. The Halcyon reshaped my world, leading to the opening of a small business, development of a entire community of friends. When someone believes in you, trusts you to accomplish things as the cast so expertly did, you realize that you can believe in yourself too. Whew. Tara Welsh says, making new friends as an introverted adult is so difficult, but on the Halcyon, I forgot to be shy. Like truly, like, you make friends and you make friends fast on that ship. I don't know how they do it. If it's the smell, if it's the drinks, the Sunlight Lounge, but
all of the above.
All of the above. Richard Poor says, the biggest impact for me was that the Galactic Starcruiser, through meeting new people and the adventure itself, helped me find my ability to be happy. I had repressed my feelings for so long, and then being on the Halcyon just broke that lock on my heart, and I could feel again for the first time in over 25 years. my cabin family, who were all strangers to me before the trip, the characters on the ship, and the friends I've made along the way made a life-altering change in me, and I've held on to that spark ever since. It has also created a community that I feel accepted and a part of. Whew. Goodness. Okay. Last one on confidence, Aaron Dowling. I'm 23. I'm chronically ill, and I've had chronic pain for 8 years, but Star Wars gives me hope. I'm working on a treatment. It's helping slowly, but my one trip aboard the Halcyon showed me in very personal ways the importance of reaching out, being courageous, and trusting myself. On my voyage, I had the most uplifting 40 plus hours of my life. I felt seen and cared for like I'd never experienced anywhere else, while I made new friendships and connections. My voyage marks a huge milestone in my healing journey. Starcruiser awakened pure moments of joy and inspired so much confidence in me. Starcruiser is belonging. We could have just said that and been done with the whole episode.
Well, and I think when we say that this experience was ahead of its time, because these moments or these things that people are sharing, these aren't just like, oh my gosh, I got to see it. Like we're not talking about the characters. We're not talking about that. I got to take, I was like, hand in hand with Wraith Cole. Yeah. Like these are real life impacts. Like these are, someone that was able to like have these emotions from younger. And again, these are just things that, people go through. Yeah. And for whatever reason aren't able to display those emotions. But this experience allowed them to feel safe to do that. And I think that's where we we say that this is ahead of its time, because, you don't think of Disney doing that. You think of it giving you entertainment, making you feel happy, but these are pretty significant changes. Yeah. Pretty significant impacts.
Well, and I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. If you didn't know that the Starcruiser story was about Star Wars, everything we've said in this conversation, none of it really has anything to do with Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah. It has all been about ourselves, which proves the point that it was not for sequel trilogy fans or anything like that. Like it transcended any kind of fandom. It was really there to teach you lessons and bring people together. And that's ultimately what it was. It was not Star Wars to me, or it was Star Wars in that Star Wars is about, fighting for what you believe in and being yourself, right? I want to kick off the community section of this with somebody who came in and made like the biggest splash in the Star Cruiser community and is already a big part of the Star Wars community, and that's Maria Sandoval. She is the hair designer for all of the Disney Plus shows. Like literally designs the hair for all of these. So Fennec Shand and Morgan Elsbeth, all the wonderful hair you see, Anakin Skywalker. But she loves Starcruiser. And so she came into these groups and was like, hey, y'all want to buy some hair? I'll make some hair for people. And she started taking commissions. And the hair piece that I wore on my last voyage was from her. But she provided something on here. She said, the Starcruiser provided me with an opportunity to meet fans of the shows that I work on and create unique hair pieces for their voyage. I got to interact with so many amazing people and hear their stories, providing them with a little bit of my expertise and creativity to go with their costumes and character stories. How cool is that? That it's not like Star Wars, the shows and the films over here, and then Starcruiser like all the way over here. Like it started overlapping in a pretty big way. And Maria was part of that because she did love Starcruiser just as, like, we're all just fans. We're all just people that really love this experience. And so to have that, Starcruiser isn't as far away as you think it is, right? It's not just this thing on the screen. Like it's real people that are making this and real people that love the same things that you do and maybe voyaging right alongside you, or they may have made the hair on the head of the person you're standing behind in the muster. So I thought that one was cool. The next one is Brooke Burlingame. The biggest impact on me was the new friends and family I met along the way. They in turn helped me gain a new sense of confidence. I truly believe the people I met along the way were meant to be in my life, and we will forever be intertwined because of this experience. I talk to my new family on a regular basis, and we are constantly cheering each other on in all aspects of life, not just within the Star Wars community. I cherish them and cannot wait for future trips together, celebrating how we all came together in the first place. And I think that one's important because we're not just friends with people. We're friends with people because of Star Wars, but we're not just Star Wars friends. We're friends, and we talk about, our jobs and our trials and tribulations and all of these things, but it just so happened to stem from Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, like we're this is like firsthand right here. Like, again, we didn't know each other before Starcruiser, before, any of this. And just through the journeys, we found each other and, have gone on many adventures now.
But Star Wars is just this beautiful conduit that, you love Star Wars. Well, okay, I'm gonna want to learn more about who you are, and I'm gonna be more accepting if there are differences because we have this commonality. And what besides Star Wars? I mean, Star Wars bonds generations within the same family. That in this really interesting, beautiful way. Yeah, I mean, like my dad, we had 5 kids in our family, but he always took only me to see each new Star Wars film. That was our special thing. And Star Wars does that. It's generational. I don't know. There's nothing like it. But it's just the conduit to allow something beyond that.
Yeah, and I think again the coming together part of it, like Martin's saying, is like this thing was that conduit. This is that common thing that we were going after. And sure, there was that the naysayers that it was a failure from the start and that it was gonna fail, but we were able to overcome that. I think from the beginning we were able to start weeding out that negativity.
Yeah.
And that's how those bonds became stronger, because if you're going to be negative, we don't need it.
Yeah.
And we started, you kind of start setting that line in the sand of, I don't need the negativity. Like I love this thing and I could be critical of it. I think that was from the beginning, we could be critical of it. There's aspects of we don't like, or we could change. We want to do this differently. Yeah. Sure, that's fine. But just to throw it out the window because of that you don't like it, or it's not your Star Wars or whatever, we weren't going to have it.
Right.
And because we set those boundaries, we were able to find, again, the community that we wanted and the people that felt safe, and we were able to nurture that.
Yeah.
And grow and have all these, beautiful friends that, they do these muster meetups and, do the emo parties, or, they create these, beautiful lightsabers, crystals, like all these things that have stemmed from this thing that was a Star Wars hotel. I think there was just so much there. This therapy for people, this way for people to just like grow within themselves. Like it was way, 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 way more than I think Disney thought.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's one of those things that I think we need to make sure that and I think, we've kind of made the point, like this is not the end. And we keep that community safe to we're not going to abandon you type of thing. Like we've become family.
right.
You're not going to be abandoned.
Yeah.
And we keep, we have to be the ones to say that this is over. And right now we're not ready to say it's over.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's not the ship.
Yeah.
The Starcruiser is not the ship. The Starcruiser is all of us and the impacts that it's had on each one of us, that's what the Starcruiser is. And all of us sticking together, and you guys doing your muster meetups and the Halcyon and us with Mosh Isley and having these podcasts and continuing to have people from the community on and talking about it. It's not over. Starcruiser is not over. It's not over until we say it's over collectively as a community. So as long as we stick together as one, then the Starcruiser lives on. And to me, that's what, my whole thing I've been doing on the internet lately is the Halcyon legacy. It was like, it didn't end on September 30th. It ends when we stop talking about it and when we stop thinking about it and when we stop bonding over that. So share those stories. Tell us what Starcruiser meant to you. Like, let's keep that flame going. Maybe, just maybe, one day down the road, that means that Starcruiser will come back in some capacity. Maybe not. And that's okay, right? We can't control what Disney does or doesn't do with Starcruiser, but we can control what we talk about and what we share and how we connect with other people. And to me, that's Starcruiser. And I think that's why, until Martin broke me on this episode, I haven't cried. Because to me, Starcruiser is still here. It's not a place I can go visit anymore.
Right.
But it's still, 5 different text groups with different people that I can talk to about the same things I was talking to about a month ago. Starcruiser to me, what's the hashtag? Ahsoka lives?
Yeah.
Starcruiser lives for me.
Yep.
It doesn't go
I
away
like
from
that.
me.
New hashtag.
Right? Another hashtag. But I know we've peppered it in a little bit of what, and we haven't even really talked about all the ways that it impacted us. But for you guys, like what are the big impacts that it's had on you that you want to discuss?
Well,
in 2 to 3 sentences, please.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I'm just messing with you.
Well, I think like most people, and I'm thinking like most people, we're not the same people that we were 18 months ago. And I know we've touched on, the creativity and the confidence and, all that, which is critical to all of us. But if we all met each other 19 months ago, I don't think we'd be recognizable. I mean, I know that sounds odd, but the Starcruiser has allowed us to evolve in a way without fear. And it's the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, all those kind of things that you have in your like day-to-day lives that we wouldn't have had a podcast. We wouldn't have thought about throwing a party. We wouldn't have, any of those things that.
I'm going to jump right on that, is that it's completely redefined for me personally what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said that in one of the letters they sent in. It has completely fundamentally changed how I view the real world. Fundamentally. All I see now are possibilities everywhere. And I was always a positive person. I mean, rainbows shooting out of my eyes, kind of positivity everywhere. but it's changed. It has fundamentally changed. Is now I just see everything is possible. It may not be easy. It sure isn't guaranteed. But I look at every single thing as this is possible. You want to do a Comic-Con panel. Try it. It might work. You want to do a convention. That's ridiculous for us to have thought about 19 months ago, but yeah, sure. We're going to do that. And we love Space Mountain. But Space Mountain's not fundamentally changed how I view reality. But Starcruiser has for all of us, every one of us.
I could not agree with that more. I don't know that this is a story that I've actually shared publicly, but when Starcruiser was announced, like when they first started, like back in August, so a little over 2 years ago when it was first announced, I was just starting becoming a travel agent. I was still trying to figure out like my voice online and all of these things. And that was when the first big chunk of Starcruiser news dropped, and they gave us like the tiniest little drops of information. And I remember I called you. You were at work, and I called you and I said, "This is it. This is my thing. This is what I want to be." And I think I declared it then and there. And I said, "I'm going to be the Starcruiser expert." I don't know why I thought I could do it. But it was something so inevitable that I was like, "This is it. I am going to be the Starcruiser expert." With no knowledge, there was no other information out there except for what everybody else already knew at that point. But I poured over it, and I studied, and I learned as much as I could, and I did it. And the fact that I said I was going to do it and I did it, just like you, it redefined what was possible. And now when we sit here and we're like, all right, well, that's gone. What's next? We have all these big dreams, and it's like, okay, well, let's do it. You know, any kind of obstacles in the way of these dreams, it's like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. It's fine. Whereas before, I feel like if the obstacles were too big, I would have been like, oh, well, that would have been cool, but never mind. And
Yeah,
it's absolutely blows my mind that we get to be these people now. Like, how exciting is it that we get to be our true selves because of an experience like this?
Yeah. I think, Martin, you're saying, I kind of said it. It was like, and like many others, it wasn't a thing of that it wasn't possible. And, you feeling like, oh, like I could tell you till I'm blue in the face that I believe in you. You could do it. It was just something about this that made yourself think that I could do it. And how simple of a thing as it is, like, that's all it takes is like, as long as I believe in myself that I could do it, then you feel like you could do it. But it's not until that moment, because again, everybody could tell me that this is good, this is great, this is, whatever, but it's not until I believe it. And I think that's what this did, was like, gave Martin, gave you just those moments of, you have to believe it, go believe it.
Yeah.
And, I again, it's changed us, all of us, it's changed us. And, now Disney has to deal with us.
good luck.
Sorry, we're a lot more to handle now.
And we come in groups.
Yeah.
I know. Like a good example of that is, we've been annual pass holders for the last 6-7 years, and it was always our little family, and maybe we would join up with like my sister-in-law's family or whatever. There was not a park day that we had around Starcruiser where there was less than a dozen of us. Probably we were the slowest moving party. But I think at some point we had like 20 people. It's just like, it just kept growing and growing, because you would see people in the parks that had Starcruiser or whatever on. You're like, oh my gosh, hey. And that's what it's done. It's just this instant connection. And I am forever grateful for Starcruiser. And it's not over. It's not over yet.
Nope.
But I think that is a good place to wrap up this episode. Martin and Kristine, do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you're up to?
You can always find us on Instagram, on YouTube, on Threads, at Heroes of the Halcyon. And then you can always email us your stories, because we love to hear them too, at heroesofthehalcyon@gmail.com.
Thank you for that. And if you want to share your own stories about Halcyon here in this episode, you can drop them in the comments. We would love to hear them. Please just continue sharing your love for Starcruiser, because it is, like I said, it is the reason that it lives on, is because of all of us and our stories. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. Until next time.